story we have been following throughout the past 2 days surrounds the superstar herself, Caitlin Clark, the WNBA star, the Indiana Fever star, Caitlin Clark. She's going to miss all the action on the court.
Caitlin Clark gets hurt, and guess what? Your demand vanishes because people ain't going to pay up to see these athletes that are ungrateful that their sport's growing. People aren't paying up for that. And we are here, right here. The tickets for this game, for this All-Star game, they've dropped by 50%.
What was meant to be Caitlin Clark's shining moment in Indianapolis has turned into a PR disaster for the WNBA. The city went all in, from a towering 34-story mural of Clark on the JW Merritt to expectations of record-breaking attendance and revenue. But instead of a packed celebration, fans were met with empty seats and a growing boycott of the All-Star Game. The big question now is, how did the league fumble a hometown tribute to its biggest draw? And what did Commissioner Kathy Engelbert finally say about the mounting officiating controversy during All-Star Weekend? Her response is everything about the league's disconnect from the very stars who drive its growth. Drop a comment if you think the WNBA will ever figure it out, and let's get into it.
You come to Indianapolis, look, this is what everybody's been talking about. This right here, Caitlin Clark, the banner right there on the JW Marriott. It is 34 stories banner, unbelievable. Is the largest banner ever on the JW Marriott. You may think about the bracket. Remember back in the NCAA tournament back in 2021? Yeah, it's bigger than that as well. 113,000 square feet. It is unbelievable. And you see what it says, from downtown in my town. No doubt, this is something that is grabbing everyone's attention. And who else better to be on that than the star herself, Caitlin Clark?
Indianapolis spent months gearing up for what was supposed to be the most iconic WNBA weekend ever. A replica All-Star court was installed right at the airport. Local businesses stocked shelves and boosted staffing, and Gainbridge Fieldhouse sold out within hours of tickets going live. At one point, the cheapest ticket cost $121, with average resale prices hitting $262, and courtside seats soaring into thousands. According to TickPick, it was the most expensive All-Star game in WNBA history.
Unfortunate that Caitlin Clark missed it. The crowd would have been exploding. The crowd would have been exploding. The arena would have been exploding. Oh man, a big miss as far as the WNBA is.
Then came July 17th. The moment Caitlin Clark's groin injury was announced on social media, everything unraveled instantly. You could literally watch the ticket market crash hour by hour. Those $262 average resale prices, they nosedived to just $64 in a matter of hours, a staggering 75% drop. Sellers started to panic, and the resale market went into complete meltdown. People who had bought tickets as investments were scrambling to sell at huge losses. The get-in price plummeted from $121 to around $65, and even then, buyers weren't exactly lining up. This wasn't a slow decline. It was a real-time financial disaster playing out live across social media.
From $121 all the way down to just $64 after news broke that Caitlin Clark won't be playing. These are people saying, I'm done. I don't want to watch. Caitlin Clark's not. I bought tickets solely to watch Caitlin Clark in the All-Star Game. I made accommodations solely to get to Indiana to watch Caitlin Clark in the All-Star Game. She is injured. I have no interest in that anymore. People are selling their tickets so much so they just want off of them. 121, okay. You want it for 100? Oh no, okay. I guess I gotta lower it to 80. Oh, you don't want to buy it for 80? Okay, I guess I'll lower it to 70. You don't want to buy it to 70? I guess I'll lower it to $64. The WNBA is paying attention to these trends. And they're seeing firsthand what Caitlin Clark is worth to this league.
What makes this even more painful is that we've seen this pattern before, just never on this scale. Back in May, when Clark missed regular season games due to a quad strain, ticket prices took noticeable hits. The Washington game saw a 47% drop, and that highly anticipated matchup in Chicago, prices tanked by 71%. But those were just regular season games. This was the All-Star Game in her hometown, and the financial crash that followed her injury announcement was unlike anything the league had ever experienced.
The ticket prices, the demand fell off a cliff. And it's not just the on-court product that suffers without number 22, Caitlin Clark. The entire weekend's economic opportunities have felt the fallout.
Gamebridge Fieldhouse was on the verge of its first non-sellout in nearly 2 years. And not just any game, but for the biggest basketball weekend Indianapolis had hosted since the NBA All-Star event. Let that sink in. A venue that had been packed night after night was now facing rows of empty seats. The financial fallout hit fast and hard. Vendors who had poured thousands into All-Star merchandise were staring down major losses. Local restaurants and hotels that had staffed up for record crowds were suddenly hit with cancellations. The economic ripple tore through downtown Indianapolis as reality began to set in.
But when it comes to the vendors in the arena, the shops in the arena, they're not going to have the same amount of people patronize their business as they would if Caitlin Clark was there. The surrounding restaurants, the surrounding areas, the surrounding attractions, they're not going to have the same number of people patronize their business as they would if Caitlin Clark.
This wasn't just about one player missing a single game. It was a loud, unmistakable message from fans about who truly drives the WNBA's momentum. When other stars sit out, the market doesn't collapse like this. But when Clark was ruled out, ticket demand evaporated. The All-Star Game, once billed as a must-see event, suddenly felt skippable. The crash revealed a hard truth the league has tried to downplay. The WNBA's record-breaking season is riding almost entirely on Caitlin Clark's shoulders. Without her, those flashy attendance numbers and revenue highs lose a lot of their shine.
This year, for the second time ever, the WNBA All-Star Game was supposed to feature an actual star. Normally, this celebration of pretend basketball features players that no one's ever heard of.
Clark's groin injury wasn't some freak accident. It was a predictable outcome of months of increasingly aggressive play that officials refused to control. Opponents learned they could bump, shove, and hit her with little to no penalty, and the referees let it happen. The whistle stayed silent, and eventually, it caught up with her.
How did we get to an All-Star Game in Indiana where Caitlin Clark is not healthy enough to play? Well, it all started last year, in her rookie season, where she received 20% of all the flagrant fouls in the league. And most of them came from Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. And these weren't basketball plays. They were not only fouling her, but they were getting up, laughing about it, laughing about Caitlin Clark getting assaulted. Any other work environment, people go to jail for what's going on.
Stephanie White saw it coming long before anyone else. The Fever head coach had been calling out the officiating double standard all season, pointing out that defenders were allowed to be far more physical with Clark than with other players. And she wasn't exaggerating. White was witnessing her star get battered night after night while officials looked the other way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a level of physicality that they're able to play with against her. I knew it as an opponent, and I see it as her coach. I'm not exactly sure why, but it just is what it is. And we've got to help her learn to adjust and use it against them in certain ways. We've got to find some ways to make it a little bit easier for her. But the level of physicality overall in our league has been at a different level than it's been for a long time.
Let's be honest about what was unfolding on the court. The Washington Post didn't hold back, blasting the WNBA's consistently poor officiating that had turned games into bruising brawls. They even joked that the league should swap its logo for a bruise and its slogan to no call. That was an exaggeration. That was a reality fans were seeing night after night. Want proof? Clips showed defenders grabbing Clark's arms, shoving her off screens, and fouling her on drives with no whistles in sight. Refs simply let it happen, and that silence sent a message. Targeting Clark wasn't just loud. It became a valid defensive strategy.
Mascot is going through Caitlin shit. Yeah, just going through, I'm going to tell you, Leah Boston, let's break down her face right now. I am not happy with the Liberty mascot invading our home turf right here. That mascot's cute. It is. She's having fun, but it's the Liberty mascot. So of course, that is what everybody notices, right? after the meeting, the WWE style meeting in the back of the arena, right? As the heels are all meeting together, Breonna Stewart and Sabrina and Sandy Barndello, basically the Liberty, and of course the recruiting into the Four Horsemen. They're recruiting Caitlin Clark.
The WNBA has a serious disconnect between what fans want and what it's delivering. They've spent months celebrating record numbers, but once Clark was gone, the product lost its shine. The root cause? A failure to protect its biggest star, poor officiating, weak leadership, and a tone-deaf response to what the audience actually cares about. The league was handed a generational talent on a silver platter. Caitlin Clark brought in viewers, sold out arenas, and drew massive revenue. And they turned it into a cautionary tale. This isn't the end of her story. It's fans demanding the league step up. The question now, will the WNBA learn from this costly failure, or keep making the same mistakes until there's nothing left? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you believe Clark deserves better, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Click the one on your screen. We'll see you there.